Hey everyone, before we get started with the episode, on Sunday, this past Sunday, I put out a contest for those to rate or review the show. If you're on Apple Podcast, go ahead and rate and review us. If you're on Spotify or any of the other podcasts, just throw a rating up there. I hope you give us a 5-star rating. Be much appreciated. But again, the details, you're going to be winning somebody will be winning a Outlier Knife Company Fang V3. It was provided to us by Double Star Rifles. And, we do have sponsors that listen to what we have been doing. Double Star has been generous enough to give us a bunch of product, and we hope to continue to do this contest. So if you do go on there, please give us a rating, please give us a review, and please let us know what you think.
Yeah, only thing to add is just as soon as you've done that rating, send that screenshot to our Instagram page, just message it to us, and we will conduct the drawing Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern.
And, what we'll do is we'll message the individual who won the knife. And just because, you didn't win something this time, this isn't the last time we're going to be doing this. The way I see it is you can only review or rate us once. So with that being said, you guys are going to get put into a large repository, and we're just going to keep using your entry into future drawings. So there is an opportunity to win multiple.
Yep. Give me a nod when you're ready. Shooter's ready. Stand by.
Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of 3GIQ. I'm Frank Gow, and I'm joined by my co-host Matt Gunlock. We have a very special guest today, and it's Brian Conley from Hunters HD Gold. If you've ever been to a major match, 3-gun, IDPA, USPSA, you've probably run into Brian and his Magica mystery machine. He drives all around the country. He sponsors a lot of matches. He's a very staunch advocate of the shooting sports. He has his own podcast, the Behind the Lens podcast, and I got to say, it's one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. He's got a very good touch, and he has a certain way in terms of his interviewing. And he's gotten some really great answers out of some very top-level shooters. So, Brian, thanks for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. Yeah, the Magical Mystery Tour, I give people a hard time calling the Magical Mystery Machine like a DVD or something. So it's one of those things I want to just it's a joke for people that listen to the podcast. I know I always give other people hell about that, especially Luigi. But yes, the Magical Mystery Tour. No, thank you again for listening to the podcast that I do and have so much fun doing. Got some episodes already recorded, and we're going to probably kick off season 3 sometime 1st of April. So people like y'all listening just means the world to me. We've already got some interesting stuff we're getting set up now. I'm going to change some things up a little bit, but not much. I'm trying to make sure I stay grounded and don't get too pushed away with with what I started off to make it so good from the beginning. So I'm having to hone myself back in, which is, it's easy to get, all over the place when you start listening to everybody else about this and that and everything else. I'm just trying to get back to what I am, and that's just promoting the shooting sports and finding out what makes people tick. So
that's awesome. And I gotta ask, you do travel around the country to a lot of different shooting competitions, like Frank said. And so I gotta ask, how did the van idea start? And is it a fundamental part of the Hunters HD Gold brand now?
It has become that way, but it all became let's back up. When I first got started going to matches in 2018, it was just a tent, and that was it, and a table and lenses with frames and everything else. That was it. And then as I was in Steel Challenge when I first got started, and then I started going, people loaning people's guns out. If there was an issue with their gun, they just say, "Hey, take my gun." And that was amazing to me. And then in 19, I started adding a table, just like a 6-foot table with some guns I had that, made some stuff they used in Steel Challenge, because I started buying some firearms when I was in Steel Challenge for a year, meeting different manufacturers and meeting, people like Steve Foster that were building stuff. And I said, "Oh, I'll buy that from you. It's pretty cool." And having stuff like that. And then I started, taking guns like that with me to, the Steel Challenge matches, and people were using them, and Rimfire Challenge matches as well. And then in 2020, I started, getting real big in USPSA. So that gave me a reason to buy all these other guns. It just kept growing and growing and growing. And when the tour of the Magical Mystery Tour first happened, I talked to a buddy of mine who lived down in Miami, back early on. And I said, "Hey, if you ever decide to sell this van, let me know. I could use that one day, I think, in the future." And all of a sudden he called me up and says, "Hey, I got a great deal in this van if you want it." And I was like, "Damn, I'm not ready to, spend that much money right now, but all right, well, how much?" And he told me a price I just couldn't refuse. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." So I called a buddy of mine who's a pilot over in Volusia, Georgia. And I said, "Hey, I need you to fly over here to Pelham. I'll pay for fuel, fly me down to Miami, and let's pick up this van." And we looked at the weather, got it right, and he flew me down to Miami, and I drove the whole thing back. And I was kind of mad because it was a 2014 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van that had all the seats in it and everything else. And I was mad because I was traveling with a 2018 GMC Denali, decked out, and damn Mercedes rode better than the Denali.
Oh man.
Van. And I didn't stop. I got there at about 7:00 at night and picked up the van, and I started driving from Miami coming back home. And I pulled over a couple of times just to get fuel, and it was so comfortable. I drove all the way home, didn't even stop to spend the night, because I was planning on stopping north of Ocala to spend the night and do the trip the rest of the way. But I just kept on driving because it was, one, I guess, a new thing to be in. But after that, it's it rode so well. So
Damn it, Brian! I'm gonna end up buying one myself now.
And my wife, she owns an Audi and everything else. She goes, "It's a German vehicle. It's a Mercedes." I said, "It's a van." She goes, "It's still a Mercedes." I was like, "Damn it." Okay. So I bought it with 126,000 miles on it. And now I've got almost 200,000 miles on it. So,
Wow.
it's just been going great. And what I wanted to do to answer your question was wanted to provide a service. And what I mean by that is, by loaning out firearms, and if somebody's gun breaks, you're doing a service. And then having an avenue to, I was thinking through the process, working with another gentleman, thinking, hey, I could do this inside, have a place somebody to work on their guns. I got with Troy with USPSA. This would be a safe area based on safe area rules under gunsmithing, everything you can do right here. And then it just got started just on an idea, to make it happen. The podcast wasn't in mind at that point. I knew I had an area up front where I knew I was going to be, have an area that's around for people to talk. And, if somebody needed to use the phone, come in the van. If there's gunfire going on in the match, they'd come inside the van and use the phone if they needed to. But when the podcast idea came up, it was just one of those things where, oh, well, this will work. And it's just been going crazy since. And it seems like it's full and running out of space. But I did a complete remodel of the back of it this year for 2023, and opened up a lot more space. I got the guns placed in there in a different way, where it opened up more, product to be in there. And now it's, like I said, it's just become a full service thing, because I like to help companies that should support the shooting sports, but can't get to all the shooting sports, to have their products out there for people to see. And some of them I give away, some of them I buy. You've heard me talk about Conley Gold on every podcast and everything like that. So it's just made an avenue to become, to be an event at a match I go to. And that's what, they should be. They should be an event. It shouldn't just be, here, go shoot, go home for as much money as we're spending for this sport. It should be a situation to have a place to go relax and hang out and, a lot of the ranges I go to don't have those places to hang out with your
Yep.
buddies and just sit around and talk. And so I've got I've added another tent that is 15 by 10 this year to take over that seating area to have even more shade. And it just gives a place for people to come hang out, eat lunch, because a lot of places to sit down and do that as well at some of these ranges I go to. And it just keeps evolving and evolving and evolving. And I don't know what's next, because I was talking to one guy who said, "You're kind of filling up here, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I guess next I'm gonna have to go to a bunch of different manufacturers and see if they want to kick in $20,000 and let's buy a big old tour bus or something and gut it and do something there with all these other manufacturers." I'm not going to go buy a $200,000 used tour bus, the gut, without help of some other people that want to get behind the process. But that's kind of some stuff behind the scenes I've talked about. But then I look at going, okay, I've been on some of these gun ranges and that's not going to go down that road. That's not going to work here and stuff like that. So I'm pretty happy what I got. But if an opportunity arises, just like when I talked to the guy about the van, I didn't plan it out until it hit me in the face. And then when it hit me in the face, I was like going, time to make it happen. Now you asked for it. Now what are you going to do with it? And if something ever else pops up in the future, I'll open that door and we'll see what happens next. But no, it's become a huge part of my aura that I put out when I come to matches. The people know they have a place to go. There's so many shooters that are real into this sport. And there's all of a sudden somebody comes from the outside that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have a place to bring a bunch of people together to have a talk and have a conversation, you don't have a way to bring that new shooter into the sport to make them feel like they're a part of something. And I think, through this process, I give away cigars, I give away drinks. So people bring people over the time, and it just allows for people to have conversation. In some ways, I think if I was still 5 years, and this is the 6th year I've been traveling, if I had the tent only and just lenses on the table with frames, how many people would be stopping by just to say hi? They've seen it. They've been there. They've done that. So this gives another reason on the sales marketing side for people to go, well, let me see what Brian's got today and what new gun he's got back in the back. It gives people another reason to come see me. And if they buy Hunter's HD Gold, that's wonderful. But it's still part of that relationship building process. Because, I'm not that salesman on the side of the road that says, "Yeah, come over here and look at my stuff. Come look at my stuff." I'm more of like, "Hey, come get, something free to drink. I see you smoking a cigar. You want to back up, have a place to sit while you eat lunch." And then, if they want to talk about, Hunter's HD Gold, then I'm there for that. Of course, that's why I'm here. But I did hardcore sales for 20 plus years. I'm over that now. I'm more the customer service side. And then if somebody wants to buy Hunter's HD Gold, that is wonderful. That's allowing me to be here, and they are buying it. But if they're not interested at the time, it's not my job to pressure somebody into buying something. I've dealt with buyer's remorse for years, and I don't have anybody now, to my knowledge, that has buyer's remorse, because that's why I do demo days so they can try it before they buy it, even with the prescription. And that way they don't have to worry about, well, I bought this because he's a nice guy, but I really don't like it. Well, don't buy it. Go try it. Make sure it's going to work for your shooting and your disciplines. And if it works, great. Then buy it. Then I don't have to worry about returns or anything else. You'd be amazed. I've sold so much, and returns is not, it doesn't happen, because the way we do the business, buyer's remorse only happens if, like, hey, I had that money, for the prescription, and now something happened in my life where I can't afford it now. But it has nothing to do. We never took money up front anyway. So it's exciting. It's a lot, but it's given me a way to, just build relationships with all the different shooting sports and be a part of the community. That I don't shoot this. I don't shoot any shooting sports because I don't have time. It's not that I don't want to, and it's not that I don't have the guns or the ammo. It's just, I know if I started shooting USPSA tomorrow, I'm going to go take a Stoger class. I'm going to take, all these classes, because I'm going to want to be better. Because when I start something, I'm all in.
Yep.
And kind of what happened with Hunter's HD Gold. When I started it, I'm all in. There's no looking back now. So that's kind of where I put my energy to. So I hope that answered your question a little bit.
That absolutely does. And it got me thinking, hey Frank, what do you think about getting a Sprinter van and we can like travel to matches
So,
and do the podcast?
so when Brian said that it's a really comfortable ride, my dad bought a Sprinter van and he's just going full van life. He's putting like AC in there, shelves, all that stuff. We drove it from Texas all the way back to San Jose, which is where I'm originally from. And yeah, those captain style seats, they are incredibly comfortable. The cruise control, and yeah, it's like a throne that you take on the highway.
Yeah,
Okay.
I gutted the actual seats it came with, and
Uh,
and bought some custom seats out of a another guy who makes seats for RVs out in Arizona, and so it's not the original seats that it came with. They're all, it's completely, the only thing the original in that Joker is the engine and transmission and the body. The gut has been completely redone. So I'm
nice.
kind of I'm kind of that buy once, cry once kind of person when I don't want any regrets. So
No, that makes total sense. It's what I generally tell people. But kind of leading, you talked about going all over the country. You go everywhere at this point, and like especially during the summertime, there are a lot of coinciding events. How do you prioritize which events you do go to?
wow, that's a great question because if you go to huntershdgold.com and schedule events, my year is not filled up yet. And it's not that I don't have enough matches to sponsor, but my priorities to start off with is I became USPSA official eyewear starting 2019. Or was it starting? No, 2018. Yep, starting in 2019. So from that, I felt an obligation to make sure I was at all their nationals, be that four a year, 5 a year, or 6 a year, whatever the hell they decide to do on nationals. I had part of that as my obligation to do that. I like to do, the same thing with IDPA when they have their nationals or they have their worlds every 4 years. This year, the IDPA World event's going to be in Alabama, in my backyard, so I'm definitely going to that this year. And then and other shooting sports is the same way. The Rimfire Challenge Shooting Association, their world event is a world championship. I've scheduled it on the calendar. The Metal Madness Nationals is once a year. It's on the calendar. The another big one I'm going to, which is the Scholastic Action Shooting Program Nationals up at Cardinal Shooting Center. I haven't done that one in a while, so I'm getting back into that one to do that one. But once I fill in all the major matches and Dragons Cup, then because I told Marco I'd be with him from the beginning when he got this started, then I look for just shooting sports in general. And I don't like usually going to the same area match year after year. I like mixing it up a lot. Like if I did area 5 last year, I may not do area 5 this year, but I'm going to area 1 that I've never been to. And, then I'm also try to go to area 2 in November, but that's may make it where I don't get to go back to Gorka's range to go to IPSC Nationals. Mm-hmm. So you have to make some sacrifices there to find out where it works out. But I just got back from Arizona to go into the Single Action Shooting Society World Championships into trail. There was 850 shooters there, and I plan on adding that one to my list every year, just based on the sheer volume. And I'm just any shooting sport that's out there in action shooting is what I'm looking at. There's a whole nother world of shotgun that I haven't even touched yet, but we have signed up some certified experts that are now going to shotgun events. And, I'm actually going to make another certified expert with another business in the cowboy action shooting world of SAS. So I realize that I can't go everywhere, but I'm paying attention to other vendors in these other sports. And they've asked me to do stuff I've told people no for years. And now I'm just now starting to tell people yes, because, the last thing I want to have happen is somebody goes to a shotgun event, they represent Hunters HD Gold as an authorized retailer, certified expert, and all of a sudden it's not right. And, because you got a lot of people out there that want to, they want to make the money. They want to do what, they want to take the income, but they don't realize how much work goes into it behind the scenes. And I'm very, very particular with that thought process to make sure, because the best thing I have on my side because of that, I told you earlier, I've been selling and actually a manager of major companies since I was 21 years old. I can identify who's got passion and who's got the ability to make things happen. And I've also got the ability to understand that, hey, this is a great individual. This person has great intentions, but they don't, in my opinion, from what I kind of read people, they're just not right at this time to represent the brand. And I'm very picky about that. And, it's based on my experience, you just can't turn the brand over to anybody. It's one of those things, I built this brand off social media and here word of mouth and going to matches, and it can be taken away 10 times quicker just on social media alone if I don't control the narrative. So that's kind of what I like to do. I'm stingy. I'm very controlling. It's the way I've always been. But I made major companies money, lots of money for 20 years. And now it's time to build my own brand. And that's where I'm at now. So I hope that helps.
That's pretty amazing. And it's pretty amazing feat that you have done all that. And I mean, we got to say thank you for everything that you have done for the shooting sports and traveling around and introducing yourself and the brand to people. But I got to ask, you kind of talked some of the must go to and the non-negotiable must attends, but what are some matches that you'd like to get to, but just haven't been able to for whatever reason?
I've got to do more practical practical shooting.
PCSL.
Yeah.
I've got to do more PCSL. I've got to get into more precision, rifle matches as well. But the biggest thing, I went to a couple precision rifle matches last year, or was it that year before last? And the biggest thing there is eyewear is not required. So does that mean I can't do it? No, hell no. When I first got started, my backdrop was a lady named Gray Farnsworth, who works for Swarovski Optics and still works there today. And I'd met her through an event that was at Star Arms Open House back in 2018. And she took a picture. She went shooting with Hunter's HD Gold, and she went prairie dog hunting up in Wyoming somewhere. And she sent me this picture where she was on the rifle, and the optics she was using was the Z8I, a $3,800 optic MSRP, one of the best that Swarovski has at that time. And she's wearing Hunter's HD Gold. That told a story alone, just and with her just being behind the optics on that reticle. And the reason being is because a lot of people think, well, let me back up. A lot of people have fogging issues when they shoot PRS. So they don't want anything to distract them. I get that. That's why we have a solution for that as well. However, that extra light coming to your eyes that is protected with Hunter's HD Gold lenses that we use enhances that visual acuity in that long distance shooting. And just like I went to Steel Challenge when I first got started and nobody talked to me for 6 months, just because they didn't know who the hell I was, which is fine. You throw an MSRP at $375, I'm gonna laugh at you too because your frames are ugly. I got it. I've been there. It's no big deal. That's how it all got started. You've heard the story, but once you're there and you can educate people about lenses and go try these on the optics, go try these while you're shooting long distance. Now I've got people that are shooting PRS that are the shooter's mindset. They're all wearing Hunter's HD Gold when they shoot PRS, and they're getting ready to go to France for the world, or Italy for the world shoot in PRS. So it's happening. It's just not happening as fast because I'm not able to get there. And we do sponsor the matches. We're doing some more stuff I want to get to more AK matches. The proving grounds that's getting started up, I want to be all over that, which is a takeoff of, I think, the
tactical games.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to do the tactical games when they got started, and they wanted, cash to sponsor, and I'm fine with that. It's just this in my career where I'm at right now with this business, if I sponsored all these matches with cash, I wouldn't be sponsoring but 10 matches a year compared to being able to put product out there for a return on investment. I have to have the ROI. And being able to, when Tactical Games contacted me, they were, they're on different ownership now. So I haven't talked to the new owners. But when they contacted me at the time, it was one of those things where, no, this is all we accept, but you can come here and set up, but it's still going to cost you this much money to sponsor. And I didn't want to just show up and give them $500 cash and not sponsor the event. Because that's kind of like, are you really giving back to the sport, or are you just trying to take from it at that point? And it's just my philosophy. I want to be, if I'm going to jump into something, I want to jump into it. So with the Tactical Games, I had to push them to the side and say, no, I can't sponsor right now. But, as I get bigger and more money starts to come in, anything can happen. I mean, ever since when I first got started, I was doing everything. Now that more money is coming in, I'm able to hire a marketing director. I'm hired to hire somebody over my website. I'm able to hire, Chris, to take him out of OPL, who's been with OPL forever, and pay him a different kind of salary to do all the Hunters HD Gold stuff behind the scenes. So money is allowing me to do certain things differently, but it's just, I want to be the eyewear of the shooting sports. That's my goal. Does that mean I'm going to be on commercials like all the other frame companies out there? No, that's not it. The shooting sports is, in my mind, the area where all the other gun manufacturers, all the other builders work towards the future through the shooting sports. I don't think the open gun comes first and then there's a sport built around it. I think there was a sport that allowed it, and then more manufacturers made these guns. The 2011 that Springfield's doing, they didn't just make that out of thin air, because this is something new nobody's doing. No, it's been proven that other major manufacturers like Staccato and also the shooting sports in 3-gun are using these guns. So why not make something competitive? That shooting sports came first, the action shooting sports.
It's kind of like, reminds me of, before the military kind of controlled the firearms industry and drove industry with a lot of advancements. And then the war kicked off, and then, industry kicked in. And then whenever the war started dying down, the sports started taking off, and people started getting more into it because a lot of guys, a lot of turnover. Like, I think the Marine Corps has like a 95% retention rate in the first enlistment. But a lot of guys get out, go into the shooting sports, and now industry is driving technology and always advancing.
And there's a lot of wonderful companies that cater to the military, because they know that's always going to be something there that's needed. But technology, I think the higher end, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, this is all my opinion. I've only been doing this anywhere around the gun since 2011. So I'm still new. I'm still very young in my mental thought process around the firearm industry. But when Glock made what they did for the military, that's their bread and butter, and SIG's doing the same thing. But now SIG's starting to play in other advanced markets as well, with other things that the military is not going to use or may not use. But it's still, I truly believe, based on what I've seen on just in the past 6 years, that the shooting sports drive technology. I think carry optics was driven to be bigger based on the shooting sports. I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, and somebody can email me or email you and cuss me out. I'm fine with that. I've been cussed out a lot with my customer service years. I'm a big boy. But, carry optics is one of those things where, now police departments are picking it up and stuff like that. And is that from I don't know what that's from. You tell me. I don't know.
So, I think one thing to say is, like, whenever I got rid of precision pistol off the shooting team, and then we started a USPSA team, or an action pistol team, as we'll call it. they started out just predominantly shooting production. That's what we were told. Hey, you guys can only really shoot production. And we were shooting limited as well. But then carry optics came big, and all the guys on the team started shooting carry optics. And then from there, it started like they were running tests, I would say unofficially for the Marine Corps. We have the marksmanship program management section right there at Quantico as well. And so, you know, because it was something we were doing in sport, it started becoming something that was tested for the Marine Corps. And then right down the road at the FBI Academy last year alone, that's whenever they started transitioning to red dot sights on pistols. So a lot of it has stemmed from the shooting sports and then carried over into the military as people have accepted it. And the military is always the last one to really start taking on to things. But a lot of it comes down to it has to be properly tested. They can't just put something out there because it's people's lives on the line whenever it comes to it. That's why there's a lot of stringent tests with which optic systems are we going to be using, what's the most accurate, what's the most reliable. And a lot of it comes down to reliability and ruggedness.
Yeah. Because I can imagine if you're in a situation of a conflict and you're yelling for magazines is one thing. If you start yelling for, batteries, that's a whole other thing. So, that's not what we want. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, I'm very happy in the shooting sports area. There's, through the shooting sports, I bled over into police departments. I bleeded over into border patrol. I bleeded over into the hunting world, like I said, but I'm going to other parts of the industry through the shooting sports. And that's I'm seeing it firsthand. We're working on hopefully having something later on where we're actually going to have a first responders, program, that includes everybody, military, police, EMTs, anybody who is out there are first responders, to have the ability to have Hunters HD Gold at a substantial discount for what they're doing. So then I'm going to be able to bleed into other avenues in the future, because I'm not thinking about, what I'm doing in 2 weeks, which I know where I'm doing. I'm not thinking about it. I haven't planned it out, but I'm thinking about 3 or 4 years down the road. What does this look like? Where's the next, how do we get in these other areas while not leaving what got you started? And that's my whole thought process now, because I'm not going to leave the shooting sports. I've met lots of people that I've talked to when I first got started, and they go, man, this is great. You're gonna forget these little guys one day. I said, you don't understand. I'm not going to forget the people that really put me on the map. And I try to keep myself humble at that point. And I'll drive through certain states when I'm driving, and I'll hit the Mississippi border, and there's a guy whose father, whose kids don't shoot much anymore. And every time I call him, I say, I'm driving through your crappy state. Just thought I'd give you a call. And, I haven't seen the guy in 2 years. But it's one of those things. I build these relationships up with people throughout the different, states I go to who are there with me from the very beginning. And I like having these conversations with people that may not be shooting anymore, but are involved with what's going on around in their area and everything else. And they're able to open up other doors for me as well. So relationships is not just a handshake and me taking your money and handing you a pair of Hunters HD Gold. Relationships is really wanting to find out what you're all about and learn about it and grow as the people grow. I mean, we've already seen, you've probably seen this yourself. People come to the shooting sports and they're, and a lot of them don't make it after 3 or 4 years. And it's not because they don't like it. It's just, this is a very, very expensive sport. I mean, the only sport I can think that is more expensive than this is racing race cars.
Yep. And motorcycles.
And motorcycles, anything racing, as a whole is the most expensive. And I can't think of another one that throws anything above the shooting sports, because you're burning ammo weekly, or sometimes some people twice a week, because they're so engaged, plus they're practicing and everything else to take this to their sport. So not everybody wants to do that. They may all want to do it. They just can't afford it based on, they get older, they have kids, they get a family. Some of the kids get in there and realize their parents aren't going to be their main sponsor anymore. I mean, life happens. But to be there for the new generations coming in, everything else, people are going to, dabble in this. And there's always the next Max Michelle that's going to come up somewhere, or the next Casey Eusebio, or, Travis Tomasi. And you just watch. Who's it going to be next? You don't know. But I get to see that based on where I'm at and being 52 years old. I hope I'm doing this, another until I'm 72, where I can see where all these people who became the next big guy, we see Jerry Michalik, who is still out there raging and making it happen. But at some point, who's the next Jerry? Who's the next, all these great shooters coming up? Who's going to set the new world records? And I like being a part of that, because those people have their place in history.
So you kind of said a lot of things to me that reminds me of a book I read called Outliers. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's a Malcolm Gladwell book, really good. And it, every note you hit resonated with that book. And the book's about how successful people surround themselves with other successful people, and what successful people do to connect and build relationships. A lot of really successful people, they remember the people who got them there. They write them every birthday, every Christmas. They remember names. Like they're very like empathetic with people, and they just remember all those good times, and they build upon that, and they use those relationships to create their own success and the success of others. So you do a lot of traveling face to face, and that's what really sets your business apart. And if you were just to look and turn back, and you wouldn't spend as much time on the road as you do, what's been the most satisfying match experience you've been a part of so far?
Ooh. Well, last weekend was great just because I was around the Cowboy Action Unit that we talked about, and 75% of them needed protective eyewear as far as prescription. So that's always a plus. But the most memorable matches almost go back to where I meet certain people for the first time. You've heard me talk about the Mississippi Classic was my very first USPSA match, where people are running and gunning. And that's when I met Luigi Lee for the first time, who, gave me 16 reasons why he hated or did not like Hunter's HD Gold. And we've become best friends since then. And he's become, he doesn't wear anything but Hunter's HD Gold. There's matches in Texas where I met people for the first time of competition, of my competition, other eyewear companies. And to be able to meet people that, started and did things the way they did them in their industry, and to me to be able to see that, how other, how to run my business compared to what they were doing, was memorable moments. Being at my first, World Rimfire match, meeting Michael Bain and Brian Hacker with Tandem Cross, and even giving me the idea to, because I saw Tandem Cross traveling. And when Brian Hacker says, here's about 6 matches we're going to this year, then Michael Bain told me some matches to go to. And when I put it all together, I tripled it. And it's just, meeting the people along the way, that's special. To say there's a certain match, well, the very first match that made me realize I could go to any match in the world was in late 2018, and it was the 9 days of nationals. And I was gone for 12 days total, because it was 3 matches back to back to back. And I told Sherry before I left, I said, if I can do this match, I can go anywhere. And since then, I haven't had a match that's ever been that long. And everything else has been simple, because that was a big toll on me mentally to be there for that long period of time. The first time there was a nationals that I went to in Talladega, Alabama, my home range at the Civilian Marksmanship Park, was awesome to me, because it's only 40 minutes from the house, and and I built a relationship with that entire range because of that. And now we help sponsor the range. So, you know, the A Clash Bash last year I went to down in Texas, first AK match I ever went to. And I had so much fun, and I'm going to do everything in my power to get back there again and be a part of that, you know, community and a whole nother community of people with AKs. So
that's Lan Nguyen and Mike Whitesides, right?
yes,
Yeah,
they
are
were
such great people.
Yep, and Clay and somebody else put the match on, and Mike and Lamb were over the shooting side, over the shooting sports side of it. But yeah, because that's a big festival. You know, it was neat. They had like I think a couple hundred people shooting the match, and they had these other 600 people that were there just to walk around and see vendors and shoot guns with IWI and everybody else's that are there. But some of the best times I had traveling has not even been going to matches, and it's been able to go through in Texas and call up Tony Pignato and say, "Hey, I'm coming through your area. Do you mind if I stop by and see how staccatos are made?" And he gives me a tour of that. I go down to Miami and I met, Shay with a Kai, and I see what he's doing. Going to Infinity Firearms to meet Brandon and him showing me through his factory. And then same thing with Titman Arms, and going to see Ruben and Seamus at Vortex and meet all the people up there that have sponsored me. When I get to do these little behind the scene trips when I'm traveling to see these other manufacturers and take away nuggets from what they're doing to make their business successful, to help even grow my business as education wise to me, to be able to, keep on point. Cause I'm seeing other companies out there that are doing things I did 10 years ago and it still works. We can change the world with social media and everything else that's changing business rapidly. But when you actually go to a factory and you see how things are really happening on the inside, you realize, okay, it's gotten complicated on the internet, but it's still, when you're inside, this is where we're at right now, making things happen, that hasn't changed. And that's what makes me, there's tweaks, but it's not any major changes that makes, oh shit, we're doing this thing completely wrong. We got to change everything. So it's not like that. It's ways to make it where we have, it just helps solidify what we're doing back here in Alabama, making lenses, making sure we're on the same pace with everybody else. So.
No, that's pretty awesome.
Really well said. And we kind of expected that you were, we can't just ask you for one memorable match. I think a lot of those experiences are near and dear to your heart, and a lot of the relationships that you've made throughout those matches. Kind of want to shift the focus to your perspective from as a business. So you talk a lot about promoting the shooting sports on your podcast. And there's so many options, right? There's defensive related, like we talked about PRS, IDPA, USPSA, steel shooting. There's a lot of options. It's still relatively niche. What do you think needs to happen to take it to the next level in terms of broad appeal? And do you even think it needs to get to that next level?
I think once we get to a broad appeal and everything's calmed down, all it's going to take is one disaster at a school, one disaster at a church that just happened today in Germany, and one disaster somewhere else, and then half the population is going to pull out, and that's part of it. If we sign Coca-Cola tomorrow as the official drink and Powerade as the official energy drink of or refreshing drink for the United States Practical Shooting Association, everybody's celebrating. But as soon as something happens and somebody finds out that Coke's a sponsor, Coke is gone quicker than they came in. And that's just the reality of what we live in. Would I love to see this be a mainstream sport and everything else? I'd be first one in line to see that happen. But you also got to look at the other side of that, of how quick can it be taken away? And we build relationships with companies that are 2A friendly. Sometimes we have to use companies that may not be 2A friendly, but it's the way we have to do it if we want to get our message out there. We all understand that. But, the day that, a social media platform acts differently, for an example, YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube is what YouTube is. It's a way to get out there. There's a lot of things happening with a lot of people that are very, very gun friendly, making money on YouTube and doing different things to make YouTube their platform. And you've seen the commercials lately. I watch marketing all the time. Rumble is got the best commercials right now, going after YouTube for free speech and for being able to do what you want to and not get flagged and everything else. So I've had a discussion with my director of IT going, hey, I think we need to move some things to Rumble and go over there, and see what this is all about, because we want to support what's there, and there's been all these different platforms come up that have, came up, everybody got excited about it and failed, but it takes an entire, it takes everybody to make a movement that wants to do it. If every gun friendly person tomorrow said they're going to leave Facebook and shut it down and then go to another platform where they can speak freely, then Facebook would change. There's no doubt in my mind they wouldn't change. But when you only have a percentage go, or even to say you have a lot of them go, but they don't close their Facebook account down, Facebook doesn't care. You're still there. And it takes a movement like that. And, I don't think, people are still posting stuff about, they're posting pictures of guns. There's ways to post about it that, you're not talking about it, but you're posting about it. There's ways to get around the system. I think that's what everybody's found out doing. But, when it comes to making the sport mainstream, that's one reason why I did the YouTube channel to try to go live at events. I'm going to do more of that this year. Last year, I was all gung ho to do it, and I had no idea Hunters HD Go was going to just blow up even more than it already has done, thanks to each and every one of you watching and listening and are making the brand what it is. But I didn't have time to leave the compound. I was there. I was busy, and I'm trying to make ways to be able to live stream more events, because as a whole, YouTube hasn't censored it and shut it down. So I mean, my YouTube channel grew from 500 or 600 people to now like 1,300, which is not many. But the more stuff I get out there and start promoting the shooting sports and just showing matches happen at different things, I think that number can grow through YouTube and make things happen. And if I get shut down, I get shut down and I go to another platform and go from there. It's just, we just got to keep trying. But when you start talking about making something mainstream and getting a Budweiser sponsor, which is, I know that doesn't sound good with guns, but my thing is once you get a major sponsor out there, it's all good. But as soon as every 4 to 8 years on the cycle of who's president, everything changes, and you can't run a business on that. You can't run an organization on that either, because if all of a sudden USPSA's running a budget because they had Coca-Cola say they were going to spend, $1.6 million for their, advertising in this and this and do something live stream. And all of a sudden there's a massive happening. They pull that money out. Well, USPSA's already got their budget. Now what are you going to do? So you can't, I just don't know. It's maybe that's made for a lot of people that are higher up the grade than me, but I'll support it. I'll be there and support those companies that support the shooting sports. But it's going to take owners of companies that are 2A friendly to not be scared to get out there. That's one reason I travel with Conley Gold. Conley Gold got started back in 2016. I started drinking it in 2017, and I went there to go buy it direct. I set up a meeting with the owner of the company, CEO, and I said, I got 2 questions for you. He goes, okay. I said, my first question is, how do you feel about gun control or the Second Amendment? And he goes, well, I don't give a damn about gun control because I own a gun myself. I said, great. I can ask my second question. And that went into, you support a lot of water skiers, BMXers, and all this stuff. How would you like to get into the shooting sports? And he goes, what the hell is that? And then 45 minutes later, he goes, what's this going to cost me? And I said, not a damn thing besides sending me product to give away. And I'm going to let everybody know that you support the shooting sports and they're going to buy your product. And sure enough, right now, if you go to their website, one, they're out of it because there's 2 reasons. One, the Hunters HD discount code is blown up and they're always out of it. But two, they're doing some rebranding because they're getting rid of the pot leaf because it's a hemp-based energy drink, no CBD, no THC. So that scares, when they see the pot leaf, it scares automatically military and police. They think they're going to hit hot. But that's just a conversation we have with the tent. No, you won't ever hit hot on it. I've proven that time and time again that you will not. But they're working on rebranding right now, which when they get that done, we're going to have everything's going to be back in stock again, and they're going to keep rocking and rolling. But that company, the only reason I travel with it is because they told me, quote unquote, I will support you in the shooting sports because Monster doesn't, Red Bull doesn't, Bang doesn't, none of these other companies do. You know, I heard of a story where Monster Energy Drinks was going to sponsor this shooter, give them all this product for matches, and then they signed a contract and they came back and said, we can't do this because you're around guns. We did not realize that. However, we'll honor your contract and give you all this product, but you can't advertise that we're the guns. That we're doing this because Monster had wanted nothing at all to do with it.
Wow.
And at that point, you know, you got to choose what you buy every day. That's not my decision. I tell you, I support local independent businesses and I support companies that support the Second Amendment. And those are the companies that if we can get it more and more involved with the shooting sports, that's what it's going to be to take it to grow to the next level. And right now, that is with what we're doing, you know, to support. And if USPSA goes into more of a money format and not a product format with prize tables, then we have to pivot. But as of right now, a lot of the shooting sports want to give prize tables to give the products back to their shooters that shot the match. And that fits into my business plan perfectly because more people are wearing it, the more people are talking about it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of what you said resonated with me. It also reminded me that I think a huge victory this year is the fact that the Tactile Games was able to get Under Armour as their main sponsor.
Yes,
a company that's not explicitly like two-way affiliated. So I think that's great. Having to kind of tiptoe around social media also resonates with both myself and Matt. We've noticed that it's getting harder to we've kind of plateaued in terms of our page growth. We're still growing. It's just not as much as it used to be. And we're also noticing that, say, for example, you have to type in our handle exactly to get to our page. So it's little things like that. But going back to what you were saying about, the Magic Mystery Tour, having a place for new shooters, because that's really how you grow the sport, is you get more people involved. And you established a place where people can congregate, people can have a sense of community, and really that we can be more welcoming to new shooters. So do you assess that the shooting sports are doing a good job of getting new shooters in? And do you think there's anything that needs to be changed there?
The shooting sports is growing. USPSA is growing. Rimfire Challenge is growing. Steel Challenge is growing. I'm going to a lot of these matches that aren't on the national circuit, and I'm meeting people I've never seen before. And I'll talk to these people where'd you come from? And I said, oh, my buddy told me about this last year. I'm going, well, welcome. There can be a lot of, there's a lot of things that all the shooting sports can do better with. We can all agree with that. And, but there's so many new people coming into the shooting sports that people aren't just aware of it because they don't see all the numbers that are released. A lot of companies don't release it. But the growth is happening. I'm in a stage now where I'm having people buy Hunter's HD Gold right off the website at full MSRP and not even know that, there's a good opportunity, that you can go to an authorized retailer or go shoot a match and save a lot of money. But that's fine. But it's one of those things that makes the business go around. But my point being is so many people are coming into the sport that may not know that, Vortex is huge. They may have used Leopold all their life. They don't know that these other major companies are out there supporting the shooting sports. And a lot of growth is going to happen for all these companies because of that. Why did Springfield come out with the 2011? Did they come out with it because they wanted to give staccato some competition, or they come out with it because they want to, they know that that's the future more, that they want to get more into the shooting sports. I've heard manufacturers of the gun industry say the shooting sports is there, but it is not making us any money compared to everything else. Guess what? That's fine. I'm fine with that. But the shooting sports, I'm telling you, is where innovation changes a lot. And there's going to be you're going to see some Springfields out there this year in the shooting sports, no doubt, especially with some of the different companies that are already allowing it. And now with the USPSA, that's going to bringing it on as provisional. You're going to see some change over there. And because everybody's freaking out, that, well, this is going to take away from this division. There's going to be some of that, but this is going to allow a whole new people that are YouTubers that are getting into the shooting sports that I watch all their channels that are saying, we can't wait for this to happen so we can bring our staccatos and go shoot a match and not being open. There's people out there that are waiting for this. So there's going to be, it's going to continue to grow. I just left a sport last week where the Single Action Shooting Society has over 18 divisions. Now, does that mean USPSA needs to do that? I'm not saying that at all. But with that many divisions, there was 850 shooters plus in 6 days.
Wow.
And there was still a wait list of people that could not get into the match. Now you think about that for a second, but all that means is people found a division and they came and shot what they wanted to do based on how they were going to dress. And because in cowboy action, you dress a certain way, you go in this category. You dress this way, you go another category, because it's lined up different. B Western to the Wrangler. There's different divisions that's based on your clothing, not just on your weapons. So it's a whole. But people came and people participated, and they only shot one division. They weren't shooting different divisions. So there's a side I've seen now that if you have more divisions, you can get more people into the shooting sports. And I know that's going to make some of the hardcore USPSAers scream at the computer and cuss me out. I'm not saying we need to do that. I'm just saying the shooting sports is growing. And, it's part of it. And yes, there's going to be people that get out and they can use the excuse that XYZ organization isn't doing like I want them to do anymore. And I'm not happy. I'm leaving. Guess what? Use that as your excuse. But I'm telling you, the main excuse is life happens, and sometimes life happens where kids, family, and money is not the same as a majority of it, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because I don't hear many people saying, "I'm not going to do shooting sports anymore. I'm going to go race cars." Don't hear it. People I hear saying, "Well, I used to race cars, but I'm staying. I'm gonna shoot guns now." They're stepping down. They're not stepping up. But there are some people that are probably stepping up as well. But my point being is there's people that have left this sport that I know that are now playing golf. That's fine. Play golf. Play your sport. The day that people get tired of hearing me or wanting to see me around a gun range, I'll go take Hunters HD Gold and I'll go sit at a golf range and do demo days there at a golf course. But that's not my platform right now. My platform is the shooting sports, and I'm going to support it as long as they'll have me.
Yeah, all very great points. On the same subject in terms of growing the sport, I think the way that the sport is presented is a big part of it. I know you're a sports fan. Listening to your podcast, you talk about UFC, you talk about football a whole lot. I watch a lot of sports. And the most successful ones have found a really good way to produce an accessible quality product for their spectators. You interviewed Josh Freilich, who's done a really awesome job of promoting himself as a shooter, but also the media that he presented for Carry Optics Nationals was incredible.
The content he does in general for himself is amazing in his hunting world. Continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's all good. But, we've seen multiple attempts at live streams. You do a live stream. What do you think is holding, we'll just center on USPSA for a second. What do you think is holding that sport back in terms of presentability, marketability, and just pure spectatorship? And how do you think we can overcome that?
Bandwidth. And what I mean by that is they had all these plans of doing all this stuff at Talladega to get live set up and make it a thing. Then last year, before they got started, for some reason, 4 bars of service at that range went to 1.
Mm.
And what happened is Verizon, who's in that area, moved a complete tower on the other side of the interstate for the racetrack in 5G and shut down the other tower.
Mm.
Nothing could do about that. So USPSA pivoted. They bought Starlink, and I bought a Starlink as well, which I travel with now. And everything was going to be, that was plan B, and that failed because the bandwidth of upload speed would not handle everything they were doing with the cameras they had and everything else. So there's a learning curve there that they've got a lot of grips on, that a lot of things are happening. I mean, they had their very first live they did, and they realized that one camera shitty, that one angle, that just sucks. So this last time they were going to do it like 2 or 3 cameras on each stage. And then, next thing you know, then the bandwidth was gone. Everybody's got good intentions to do a lot of things until you've got stuff out of your control. Does that mean they need to invest, umpteen $100,000, whatever it costs to get on satellite uplink? I don't know. I know they ain't got the money for that now, I don't think, based on the stuff they're trying to redo. But that's one of those things. I mean, I've gone live at events with a phone that's now, you see how thick it is. That's the regular phone, but it charges my battery 5 times before I've got to plug it in. And how many times you say me live an event, all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, my battery's dead. And it's happened. It happens to me. But that's one reason I've got Starlink myself. So I'm doing it for 2 reasons. One, I found out you can have like 120 people on there at one time, which is pretty amazing. But 2, so I can let people share bandwidth if they need to come over there and check their scores or where they want to do, during the break or something else. They got access to my hotspot. Or 2, I bought a repeater because I found out, Starlink works great, but so I ran a repeater that's up the flagpole next to my van where I can stretch it out to about 5 or 6 bays each way, which were directional. So I'm planning things to like in it, but it didn't work at Talladega because their damn bays are so high. Yeah. So it was like going, holy cow. So I could be outside the bay filming just fine. But when I walked in the bay, their bays were so tall, then it killed my direct point of view on that. So I've heard good friends of mine say, hey, do this and spend this much money and get self-sufficient. And that's great. But and then people the same people say, hey, we could get sponsors to pay for this and everything else. Well, they're not knocking down the door to do that, and I know Federal spent a lot of money with USPSA when they first did it to help sponsor that live event. And it wasn't the best, but I remember the days when ESPN first got on the air too, and it was shit compared to what it is now. Technology changes, everything changes. You go back to YouTube, look at some of the very first ESPN broadcasts, and you're like going, oh, USPSA's upload wasn't that bad, was it? So, it's all, technology changes. But I know that they've got the right intentions. I know that the USPSA wants to get it right, but they just can't just go blow all this money in one smack and make it happen instantly and make everybody happy. They had to, they gradually bought this equipment they bought over 3 years. This wasn't something they just did just because, somebody had a credit card, go buy it. They had to budget it out as well.
Right. So, and the inherent setback is a lot of the ranges. I mean, you know this better than anybody. You travel to a lot of them. They're in the middle of nowhere. The reception isn't great. I'm a communications officer by trade. My job is to set up satellite terminals in the middle of nowhere, austere environments, as we call them. And I got to get internet for my customers, my commander or whoever needs it. And those connection speeds are always terrible. Takes you about 5 minutes to resolve Google. So I understand the struggle completely. But I also know that we have a lot of really smart people in the shooting sports, really dedicated people. And I think, based on what I've seen, the stuff that Josh Falick put out, I thought that looked really great. I've seen some
I heard they're going to be using him again this year.
That's a good choice. Yeah,
very
good choice.
I think that's something they realize, because I know that, you try to do everything out there and try to keep it in house to keep your costs down. But I think they're in a situation where they found out that the feedback. I know what Josh does is amazing. I mean, he ran a probably a 45 minute ad at Hunters HD Gold, and I was like, holy shit, this is nice. So he's putting good stuff together. And he's got a team with him. He's got somebody who's running cameras. He's got somebody who's sitting at a computer doing editing while they're out there getting content. So it's not just Josh by himself. He's got 3 or 4 people that travel with him, and that's not going to be free. And there's a lot of people that, that think that, we can get this grandmaster shooter, to commentate, and he's not going to want to charge anything, or he or she's not going to charge anything. That may be good for 1 or 2 things, but you start setting a precedent that, this grandmaster, amazing shooter that everybody knows is commentating. At some point, that person's going to say, no, I'm going to get paid. I'm not doing this for free. And everything costs money. So how far are we away from that? Don't know. There's a lot of great ideas out there, a lot of wonderful ideas out there, but it takes the green. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. But as soon as they figure out how to present the sport in a good format for spectators, and that's another thing, right? Like, we get all these sports stadiums, the UFC Octagon, and you can cram all these people in to watch, but it's just not something that's possible. You always see like a throng of people spectating the super squad, and it's very limited. You can't be in front of the fault lines.
I agree with that, but here's another thing. Hit factor is not easy to score anyway.
That's true.
But I'm getting ready to go to the World Pistol Shootout in a couple of weeks, the match that's going to be held at the Infinity Range in Gordon, Texas. And there's 10 stages, which you go shoot. But guess what? By shooting those 10 stages does not win you any money, period. That's not going to determine the winner. The 10 stages are going to qualify you for the shoot-off. The top 6 people in each division are going to be in a shoot-off. Then they're going to do random draw of 2 other people from their division that may not have finished where they're at, but 2 people, that's a total of 8 people that are in a shoot-off. That's who's going to win the money.
Oh, so it's okay. So it's like playoffs to get into a bracket.
It is. So my point being is, when I go live there and I'm showing that shoot-off live, that's who's going to win the money and the match. That will be fun to watch, because it's not running a stage. Why is he going over there and doing this? Why, people outside the world that don't know our sport go, well, they're running with guns. Oh my God. But 2, they don't understand the hit factor and everything else. But when they see bang, bang, all these targets going down, and know that this one landed on top of this one and that one won, there's your winner. That's tangible. So, and there's another match I'm going to with a Falling Steel match up in Ohio that's doing something like that. I'm going to that match for the first time this year. This is their inaugural event, and it's a Falling Steel match. That is something that is easier for people to see and understand. Is that the gateway? I don't know. We'll find out. But I can promise you, when you have 2 people shooting and it comes down to this person A and this person B, and when you watch these 2 people shoot, and this one knocks that other person target down first and goes crazy because they won $5,000 and that person won nothing, you're going to know right then that's tangible. And I'm sure somebody wins something for second. My point being is, you're going to see it as it happens. You're watching the final, 6 seconds of a basketball game. You're watching the final 2 minutes of a Super Bowl. You understand who's fixing to win and lose. You may not watch the entire thing, but if you watch this right now, you know what's fixing to happen. I just got through watching Power Slap, and I can't wait for the finals to come this Saturday on Rumble, because I got vested in this 8 damn seasons of people knocking the crap out of each other, and I became vested in the individuals. And it's not hard. All they do is stand there, and if you in the coin toss, you go first. Good luck. And this is where it's at. And it's easy to see the winner and the loser. So that's that do we need more? Do we need the the pro-am to come back so people can see the falling steel and stuff like that and see something basic. And then if they want to go watch the Masters one day and understand, this is a lot of golf for 4 days and a lot of things are going to happen, and understand the scoring, they're vested in that time. But I don't know. I'm throwing a lot of stuff out there on sports analogies, but you watch a boxing match or UFC match, you pretty much know you're fixing to watch, especially if it gets down to the championship rounds, there's fixing to be a winner. It's fixing to happen. That's the moment where it gets exciting. And in the shooting sports, in USPSA, you don't have that one exciting moment, do you?
The closest thing I had was in the waning moments of nationals, seeing that JJ and Nils were so many points apart, and I just kept refreshing just to see if he had, closed that gap.
100% agree with that statement right there. But that match lasted 3 days.
It did.
So where do people do for 3 days up to that match? Do you air just the final day on the final 5 stages where it does become a difference, or do you air the whole thing? I'm not saying one way or another. I'm just making a point. That match lasted 3 days, and we cared about the final 3 stages because I was there. You were watching it refreshing. I said, I left the tent. I left where I was at saying, and somebody goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'll be back. I'm going to watch how this finishes, because this is the moment. We're going to find out right now what happens." And I left. Somebody else watch this.
I think the Outdoor Channel did a really good job whenever they had Three Gun Nation live on TV back in 2014, 2013 and 14. They did a really good job because they showcased like essentially the top 10, maybe top 15 competitors going through the stages, and they were all pretty much base stages. It's not the long stages that you have in Outlaw 3-gun, but they were base stages, and they basically kept a tally of, hey, this is who's in the lead. Oh, this guy messed up. He's bumped down to here. Like they really did a good job, but then something happened. And I'm not going to talk about it, but something happened in the country to where like TV networks dropped shooting sports.
And what you said was very important. They had all the top 10 guys together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? In USPSA, we got people who are the best in the world that don't want to shoot on the super squad.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you, and there's no USPS rules to enforce it. There's nothing that says that this shooter has to shoot with the rest of them. So how do you get the top 10 people together to put them on the stage like that? Unless, one, what's in it for me? That's the shooter saying that, not me.
Mm-hmm.
The shooter says, what's in it for me? Which means it's more than it's more than a gun on a prize table.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. But it's a very good point about the shoot offs. We interviewed a shooter who went to the Caribbean Open, back in February, and he said that's one of the things that he wants USPSA to implement is the shoot off. Everyone loves a good shoot off. We've talked about a lot of different subjects, Brian, but on top of everything, is there anything else that excites you about the shooting sports going forward? Like anything that you're seeing from your perspective that you want to share with the audience?
I'm seeing it grow. I'm seeing amazing things happen in all the different shooting disciplines, in all the different divisions. I'm excited to see if I can be particular about each sport. I'm excited to see what limited optics is going to do at USPSA. I'm excited to see what's going to happen there. I'm excited to see what IDPA is going to do next to allow certain guns in their division as well. I'm excited to see what is next in the Rimfire Challenge Shooting Association. Has a brand new board, has a brand new vision to grow members and get more people involved. I'm excited to see what Metal Madness is going to be doing, because they're going to be doing airsoft in schools through the Scholastic Action Shooting Program. That's huge. There's a lot of things happening in the shooting sports world right now that is amazing to me. I mean, who would imagine that you could take a competition to a school and do airsoft on shooting targets? And it's happening right now in Alaska, and about 7 other states are starting to get that in their schools. And we're not going to see it on the mainstream media. The happiest my dad was before he passed away a couple of years ago, was turn the news off and just live his life. And I can say the same thing about the shooting sports. The more you turn off some of the negativity that is going on in all the shooting sports, I found out there's not just drama in USPSA, there's drama in all the shooting sports. The more you can turn the volume down, I'm not saying don't get engaged. I'm not saying a lot of these organizations don't need to do things differently, but the more you can turn the volume down and enjoy what you're doing, to spend a lot of money to go shoot, the happier you're going to be, and the more people are going to be involved, and more people you're going to tell it about. And that's, I see it. I'm excited about the growth of the shooting sports as a whole. I'm excited to see what is next for Hunters HD Gold, and what doors are going to open up with how are we going to grow this? What happens next? I don't know, because I got ideas, and if certain things, cards play right, then those ideas are going to work. But I'm excited to get into other avenues of the first responders, like I talked about earlier. I'm excited to start season 3 of the podcast off and have new people to talk to, and some of the old people to talk to again, because their positions might have changed. So there's lots of things that we can do to celebrate a lot of excitement and what the freedom we have to do on the weekend, because I say it all the time. We know we have the right to protect ourselves. We know we have our right to hunt, but there's so much more to the Second Amendment about having the freedom to go have fun with your firearm. And that's what we need to promote, because, a gun sitting in a cabinet, or in a cabinet, or next to your end table that you're only going to use if life happens really bad, the odds are not in your favor. But the more you go out there and you practice, you take training, you go have fun, you go do something that you may not can do it. It may not be something a lot of people can do. But if you go try it once and you're like, hey, I could probably do this once every 2 months, guess what? You're going to be welcome. If I can only do this once every 6 months, guess what? Man, it's great seeing you again. I'm glad you came back to shoot again. But if you can do it every weekend, then come join the fun with everybody else. But get out there and get involved in some kind of activities to train yourself to be a better handler of that tool.
Absolutely well said, Brian. And I completely agree. We appreciate you coming on and talking to us. If you're into podcasts, and I assume you are, you're listening to this, Brian's podcast, Hunters HD Gold, Behind the Lens, is very good. It's one of my go-tos. I've listened to a lot of the episodes. The one that kind of got us talking was the one you did with JJ Rakaza.
Yes.
And JJ's been on so many podcasts, but in that particular moment, I think you talked to him in a moment where he was particularly vulnerable and going through some stuff and willing to share a lot of what was going on behind the scenes. And we saw a version of him that, nobody else had really tapped into before. And it spurred a whole lot of questions that we then asked him when we had him on as a guest. And then if you are into the shooting sports, or even if you're just looking for a set of eyewear, check out Hunters HD Gold or Rubies. I have both pairs, and I have to say, if you try them, they will absolutely change the way that you are seeing the range, seeing your targets, seeing your reticle. My golds have been my go-to during these winter months with cloud cover, and I couldn't shoot a match without them. But Brian, thanks again for your time. For our listeners, let us know how we're doing. Leave us a review, leave some feedback, and we're grateful to have you listen. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all.